My chosen one, pause for a moment and breathe, because what you are about to hear is not ordinary. This is not random. This is not coincidence. This is a divine interruption. Archangel Michael is warning you. God's covering is pulling away slowly because of one silent mistake you made. You only have 2 hours left to fix it. Open this before it's too late. Yes, this message carries urgency. Not fear. Not confusion. Urgency. There is something happening in the spiritual atmosphere around your house right now. Something subtle. Something almost invisible. And if heaven had not intervened at this exact second, you would not have known until it was too late. Archangel Michael stands at the edge of your dwelling, sword lowered, but watchful. Not in anger, but in sorrowful protection. Because the covering that once rested fully over your home has begun to thin. It has not vanished completely, but it is no longer as strong as it was. And the reason is not what you think. It is not because God has abandoned you. It is not because you are cursed. It is not because someone has spoken against you. It is because of one silent mistake. A mistake you barely noticed. A decision you justified. A compromise you told yourself was small. Heaven calls it something else. Listen carefully. There was a moment, maybe days ago, maybe weeks ago, when your spirit felt a gentle warning. A quiet nudge. A whisper telling you, do not entertain that. But you ignored it. Not out of rebellion, but out of distraction. And distraction has consequences. The covering of God is not removed in one dramatic event. It pulls away slowly, like mist lifting in the morning, like a door left slightly open that widens over time. Archangel Michael reveals that your mistake was not loud. It was silent agreement. You agreed internally with something that did not align with your divine identity. Maybe it was bitterness. Maybe it was hidden resentment. Maybe it was doubt spoken repeatedly over your own life. Maybe you entertained a conversation in your home that should have never taken root. The mistake was not visible to others, but heaven saw it. And when agreement shifts, protection adjusts. This is not punishment. This is spiritual law. When your thoughts, your words, and your atmosphere begin to lean away from divine truth, the covering reacts accordingly. It does not disappear instantly, because God is merciful, but it begins to loosen. Archangel Michael is not here to condemn you. He is here because there is still time. 2 hours. Not symbolic, not metaphorical. 2 hours in the spiritual realm before a cycle seals itself. Because something is trying to gain access, not through force, but through legal entry. And the only key it can use is your agreement. Understand this clearly. Darkness cannot break into a house that is fully covered. It can only enter where covering has thinned. And right now, there is a thinning. Archangel Michael says this with firmness. The silent mistake was allowing negativity to become normal inside your dwelling. You stopped correcting it. You stopped praying over your rooms. You stopped speaking blessing over your walls. You allowed worry to sit at your table. And slowly, the covering responded. But here is the shocking truth that will change everything. The withdrawal is not final. It is renditional. The covering is waiting for one action from you. One act of aggression. One moment of alignment. You do not need a long ritual. You do not need dramatic display. You need immediate repentance and declaration. In the next 2 hours, you must cleanse the atmosphere of your home. Not physically, spiritually. Archangel Michael instructs you to speak out loud inside your house, to declare that no agreement with fear, bitterness, doubt, or resentment will remain. Way out loud. because silence created the opening. Sound will close it. Heaven responds to spoken alignment. There is something powerful about a voice that chooses truth again. And as you speak, the covering strengthens. As you declare, the mist returns. As you repent, the shield restores. You might feel a sudden shift when you do this. A lightness, a peace, a subtle warmth. That will be confirmation. But if ignored, the thinning continues. And when protection thins long enough, small disruptions begin. Sleep disturbances, unexpected tension, financial leaks, strange misunderstandings. Nothing dramatic at first, just enough to destabilize. Archangel Michael does not want you destabilized. That is why this message reached you before the 2-hour window closes. You were chosen to hear this. Out of thousands scrolling, you. Because heaven still considers your house worth defending. But defense requires cooperation. Right now, pause and ask yourself honestly, what have I been agreeing with that does not match God's truth over my life? Do not overthink. The first thing that comes to your mind, that is it. That is the silent mistake. And here is the mercy in this warning. It can be reversed immediately. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now. The next move is yours. And what happens within these next 2 hours determines whether the covering restores fully or continues to pull back. This is not meant to scare you. It is meant to awaken you. Archangel Michael is standing guard, waiting for your response. Will you realign? Will you speak? Will you correct the atmosphere? Because heaven is watching and the clock has already started. Beloved soul, the atmosphere around you is more sensitive than you realize. What you decide in the next moments carries weight beyond the visible world. Archangel Michael is not repeating this warning lightly. The spiritual clock is not dramatic, it is precise. When heaven says there are 2 hours left, it means alignment must happen before a spiritual cycle completes. You may be wondering, what exactly happens if I do nothing? That question itself reveals something important. Delay is the strategy that weakens covering even more. Archangel Michael shows that when a person becomes passive after being warned, it signals agreement with the very thing trying to gain access. But listen carefully. This is not about fear. It is about authority. You still have authority over your house. You still have authority over your atmosphere. You still have authority over what is permitted and what is rejected. The silent mistake was not just negativity. It was tolerating what you once would have corrected immediately. There was a time when you would pray over your home without hesitation. A time when you would anoint your space with words of faith. A time when you felt spiritually alert. But recently, something shifted. You became spiritually tired. And exhaustion opened small cracks. Archangel Michael is revealing that your covering did not weaken because you sinned in some extreme way. It weakened because you slowly stopped guarding the gates. The eyes. The ears. The conversations. The private thoughts that linger after midnight. Protection responds to vigilance. When vigilance decreases, covering adjusts. Right now, heaven is waiting for a sign from you. Not perfection, just intention. Not performance, just repentance. When you stand in your living space and speak truth again, you reactivate what was slipping away. Do not whisper it. Declare it. Say that your home belongs to God. Say that no hidden resentment has permission to stay. Say that doubt must leave. Say that fear is not allowed to sit in your rooms. Archangel Michael responds to spoken alignment because words build spiritual walls. When you remain silent, Those walls thin. When you speak, they strengthen. There is something else you must understand. The enemy does not rush in immediately when covering thins. It tests the boundaries. It sends subtle pressure, a strange heaviness, irritation without cause, restlessness at night. It waits to see if you notice. This message is proof that heaven noticed first, and that is mercy. Right now, I want you to do something powerful. Pause your scrolling spirit. Close your eyes for a moment after this. Walk through your house in your mind. Picture every room. Ask yourself honestly, has this space been filled with blessing or with complaint? Where complaint has lingered, covering has thinned. Where gratitude is restored, covering returns. Archangel Michael says this is your turning point. Tomorrow morning. Not when it feels convenient. Now. Because once the 2-hour window closes, restoration becomes harder. Not impossible, but harder. Cycles solidify when not interrupted. And heaven prefers prevention over repair. Let me speak clearly. This is not about losing salvation. This is about losing spiritual ease. The smoothness you once felt. The peace that guarded your sleep. The unseen favor that kept disruptions away. The silent mistake chipped at that ease. But here's the powerful truth. Your obedience right now can restore it fully. You might feel resistance even as you listen. A voice saying, "This is unnecessary." That voice is exactly what created the thinning. It minimizes urgency. It whispers delay. Reject that voice. Stand up spiritually. Archangel Michael is not stepping back yet. His presence is still near your dwelling. But he is watching to see if you respond. And listen carefully. Your response does not have to be dramatic. It just has to be sincere. If this message is speaking directly to your situation, do not keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone whose home has felt unsettled lately. Comment what you are choosing to remove from your atmosphere. Let your declaration be public. When you engage with this message, when you like it, when you subscribe and become part of this spiritual family, you are strengthening more than a channel. You are strengthening a movement of homes being restored under divine covering. There is power in agreement. There is power in unity. And there is power when you refuse to stay passive. Something is shifting even now as you listen. You can feel it. That slight conviction in your chest. That awareness rising. That is not anxiety. That is awakening. Archangel Michael says the mistake was silent, but the correction must be audible. Before this hour completes, you must speak life back into your house. You must renounce what you tolerated. You must declare who truly governs your dwelling. And as you do, something remarkable will happen. The thinning will stop. The covering will thicken. The peace will begin to settle again like a warm blanket over your space. But this is only the beginning of what heaven is revealing. Because there is a deeper reason why your house was targeted in the first place, and once you understand that, everything will make sense. What I am about to reveal next will show you why this warning came specifically to you. Faithful one, there is a reason your house was targeted, and it is not because you are weak. It is because you carry something rare. Archangel Michael reveals that your dwelling is not just a place of rest, it is a place of assignment. There is a calling attached to your roof. There is purpose attached to your address. And whenever purpose increases, resistance tests the boundaries. The silent mistake you made was not random. It was strategic interference. When a home carries future influence, when conversations inside those walls will one day shift generations, when prayers spoken there will ripple into destinies, Heaven assigns protection with intensity, but protection does not override free will. It partners with it. Archangel Michael shows that your home hath been marked for impact, not fame, not attention. Impact. That is why subtle discouragement tried to enter. That is why tension tried to normalize itself. That is why small disagreements seemed to grow bigger than they should have. It was not coincidence. It was probing. Darkness probes before it pushes. And the only access point it found was your silent agreement with something beneath your spiritual authority. Perhaps you started speaking defeat casually. Perhaps you began to say, "Nothing ever changes." Perhaps you allowed frustration to define your tone. These words seem harmless in the moment, but words are invitations. Archangel Michael says the spiritual realm listens to tone more than vocabulary. When hopelessness becomes a pattern, even quietly, it signals vulnerability. And vulnerability invites testing. But here's the revelation that should ignite something inside you. The attack on your covering confirms your value. No one attacks what carries no threat. No one probes what has no future. Your home carries future breakthroughs. There are blessings scheduled to flow through your doors. There are divine connections meant to sit at your table. There are answered prayers that have not yet arrived, and the enemy sensed it. That is why the covering began to thin. Not because God withdrew in anger, but because your authority paused. Protection functions fully when authority is exercised. When authority goes silent, covering adjusts. Archangel Michael stands ready to reinforce everything. But reinforcement follows alignment. This is the moment heaven hath been waiting for. Not to judge you, to elevate you. When you correct the atmosphere, you do more than restore peace. You declare war on subtle compromise. You announce that your house is not available for spiritual testing. And something powerful happens when a believer realizes their mistake before damage occurs. That awareness itself becomes a shield. Archangel Michael says that if you act within this window, not only will the covering return, it will return stronger than before. Why? Because correction builds maturity, and mature authority carries heavier protection. Imagine your home surrounded again by invisible light. Imagine every doorway guarded. Imagine sleep returning without disturbance. Imagine tension dissolving without explanation. This is not imagination alone. It is spiritual reality waiting for your agreement. Right now, heaven is watching how you respond to revelation. Will you dismiss it? Or will you rise? Because rising changes everything. When you walk through your house and speak restoration, you are not performing a ritual. You are reclaiming territory. You are reminding the unseen realm that your dwelling belongs to God. Archangel Michael says to place your hand on a wall if you must and declare ownership under divine authority. Speak peace into the rooms. Speak forgiveness where resentment lingered. Speak gratitude where complaint echoed. As you do, the thinning reverses. And there is something else you must understand. This warning is also preparation. Your house is about to enter a new season. A season of visibility. A season of opportunity. A season where decisions made inside those walls will affect more than just you. Heaven would not allow transition without warning. That is why this message reached you before the cycle sealed. You were not late. You were alerted. And that changes the outcome completely. Feel the seriousness of this moment, but also feel the mercy. You were given time. You were given insight. You were given choice. Archangel Michael is not stepping away. He is standing ready to seal your home again under divine covering the moment you align. This is the hour of correction. This is the hour of restoration. This is the hour where silence ends and declaration begins. If this message resonates deeply with your spirit, then respond boldly. Type "I restore my house" in the comments if you receive this correction. Blessing code 314 is being released over every home that chooses alignment in this hour. And as this code is activated, know this: heaven honors obedience quickly. Now, before this moment closes, I must speak to those who feel the weight of this assignment. When you support this mission, you are not funding a video. You are strengthening a spiritual broadcast that reaches homes on the edge of breakthrough. Scripture declares, "As long as the earth remains, seed time and harvest shall not cease," and today that word breathes over you personally. When you sow into this ground through Super Thanks membership, with the PayPal link in the description, you are planting light into someone else's darkness. I hear the Spirit saying, the seed you release becomes the shield you need. This is not charity. This is alignment. When you give, you become part of the covering extended to countless homes. Rivers flow where seeds are planted. Fire falls where altars are built. If this warning preserved your house, let your obedience preserve another. Do not delay the prompting you feel right now. Activate your seed. Strengthen this mission. And as you do, may the same covering that restores your dwelling multiply over your life in ways you cannot yet imagine. Precious one, something has already shifted the moment you chose to listen instead of scroll away. You may not see it with your physical eyes, but in the unseen realm, movement has begun. Archangel Michael is not passive right now. He is responding to your awareness. Awareness is the first sign of regained authority. The reason this warning came before the 2-hour window closed is because heaven recognized your heart. You are not someone who intentionally rebels. You are someone who drifted slightly. And drifting can be corrected faster than rebellion. But there is a deeper layer you must understand. When God's covering begins to thin, it is not only about protection from external forces. It is also about internal clarity. Covering shields, yes, but it also sharpens discernment. When it weakens, confusion tries to creep in. Decisions become heavier. Small matters feel overwhelming. Focus scatters. Have you noticed that recently? Projects that once felt clear now feel uncertain. Conversations feel misinterpreted. Your patience seems shorter than usual. These are not personality flaws. They are signs of thinning spiritual insulation. Archangel Michael reveals that the silent mistake did more than create a crack. It created static, and static interferes with clarity. That is why correcting your atmosphere is not optional. It is essential. Right now, you must understand something powerful. Restoration is faster than decline. It may have taken days or weeks for the covering to thin, but it takes moments of alignment to thicken it again. That is the mercy of God. But restoration requires intentional reversal. If negativity entered through repeated words, then faith must re-enter through repeated declaration. If complaint weakened your walls, then gratitude must rebuild them. If doubt whispered daily, then truth must now be spoken daily. Archangel Michael is not only guarding, he is instructing. He is showing you how to sustain what you restore. Because this is not about fixing one moment. It is about elevating your spiritual discipline. You were never meant to live casually in your authority. Your house is not ordinary space. It is spiritual territory. Every room carries memory. Every doorway carries permission. Every window carries influence. When you speak inside your home, the atmosphere records it. That is why careless speech has weight. And that is why intentional speech has power. Right now, some of you feel conviction rising. Odd shame. Conviction. There is a difference. Shame pushes you away from correction. Conviction draws you toward it. Archangel Michael says the fact that you feel stirred means the covering is not fully withdrawn. It means the shield is waiting for reinforcement. Do you know what makes your house dangerous to darkness? Unity. Agreement with divine truth. Consistent blessings spoken aloud. When those elements are present, nothing can legally remain that does not belong. But when silence replaces blessing, emptiness creates invitation. And that invitation is what must be revoked immediately. Walk into your living space today and reverse every agreement you made with discouragement. If you said, "This house feels heavy," then now say, "This house is filled with peace." If you said, "Nothing good happens here," now declare, "Favor lives here." If you whispered, "I am tired of fighting," now say, "Victory rests over this home." Words are architecture. You are a building. Archangel Michael is reinforcing. And heaven is watching the reconstruction with approval. There is something else happening that you need to grasp. The reason the covering began to thin at this specific time is because you are approaching expansion. Expansion always triggers resistance. Before growth becomes visible, pressure attempts to test stability. Your house is about to host new opportunities, new conversations, new decisions. And those decisions require clarity. Clarity requires covering. You see the pattern now. This warning is preparation for promotion. The silent mistake almost delayed it. But because you were alerted, delay can be avoided. Some of you will notice sudden improvement in the coming days. Peace returning unexpectedly. Communication smoothing out. Rest becoming deeper. These are signs that the correction worked. But you must remain vigilant. Do not return to careless speech once peace settles. Do not relax into passivity once calm is restored. Archangel Michael says protection thrives in consistency. You do not need to live in constant intensity. But you must live in awareness. Your home should regularly echo with gratitude. Your rooms should regularly hear blessing. Your walls should regularly witness prayer. Not out of fear, but out of stewardship. Because your dwelling carries assignment. An assignment occurs attention. But now you are not unaware anymore. Now you know the strategy. Now you understand the cause. Now you recognize your authority. And that changes everything. What is coming next is even more important, because the silent mistake was only the surface layer. There is a root beneath it that must be exposed so it never repeats again. Hear this clearly, guarded one, because what is about to be revealed goes deeper than atmosphere. The silent mistake was not just careless words or tolerated negativity. That was only the surface expression. The root was fatigue of the soul. Archangel Michael is revealing that you have been spiritually exhausted, even if you did not admit it out loud. You have carried responsibilities quietly. You have fought internal battles privately. You have held things together for others while neglecting your own restoration. And slowly, that weariness turned into vulnerability. Weariness does not announce itself grammatically. It disguises itself as indifference. It whispers, "It does not matter anymore." It convinces you to skip what once strengthened you. It persuades you that silence is easier than declaration. And that is where the covering began to thin. Protection responds to engagement. When your spirit disengages due to fatigue, the shield does not vanish, but it loosens. Archangel Michael says your exhaustion was seen in heaven. This warning is not a rebuke. It is reinforcement. God never intended for you to guard your house while running on empty. You were meant to be replenished regularly. But instead of refilling, You kept pushing forward, and pushing without refilling drains discernment. When discernment lowers, small compromises feel harmless. When harmless compromises repeat, patterns form, and patterns create openings. The silent mistake was agreeing with discouragement because you were too tired to fight it. That truth may feel personal, but it is liberating. Because if fatigue was the root, then restoration is the solution. Archangel Michael is not only instructing you to cleanse your house, he is inviting you to restore your spirit. Because if you fix the atmosphere but ignore your exhaustion, the cycle will try to repeat. You cannot guard what you do not nourish. There were nights you went to sleep heavy without releasing your concerns. There were mornings you woke up already tense. There were moments you chose distraction instead of prayer because prayer felt like effort. Heaven understands effort, but heaven also offers strength. The covering thinned not because you stopped loving God, but because you stopped replenishing yourself. This is where mercy becomes powerful. God did not shame exhaustion. He restores it. Archangel Michael says that as you speak life back into your home, you must also speak life over yourself. Declare that your strength is being renewed. Declare that clarity is returning. Declare that your spirit is not depleted but refilled. You were not created to operate drained. You were created to operate empowered. There is something sacred about recognizing your limits before they create damage. This warning arrived before damage solidified. That is grace in motion. But now you must choose sustainability. Do not let this moment be emotional intensity without long-term change. Let it become disciplined renewal. Schedule moments of stillness inside your home. Protect your peace intentionally. Remove influences that drain you unnecessarily. Be selective about conversations that linger in your space. Archangel Michael is showing you that guarding your home begins with guarding your inner world. If your heart remains peaceful, your house reflects it. If your thoughts remain aligned, your atmosphere follows. The silent mistake began internally before it manifested externally. That is why the correction must also begin internally. Some of you feel relief right now because you realize you are not under judgment. You were simply tired. And tired people sometimes tolerate what strong people would reject. But strength is returning. You can feel it rising as you listen. A quiet determination forming. A clarity settling. That is restoration beginning. The next time discouragement knocks, you will recognize it faster. The next time negative words attempt to settle in your rooms, you will correct them quicker. The next time fatigue tries to convince you to disengage, you will choose renewal instead. This is maturity forming. Archangel Michael says your house will not only be restored, it will become stronger than before this warning ever came. Because now you understand the pattern. Fatigue led to silence. Silence led to thinning. Thinning led to warning. Warning led to awareness. Awareness now leads to elevation. You are not going backward. You are ascending in discernment. But there is still one more layer that must be uncovered. Because beneath fatigue lies something even more subtle, something tied to identity. And once that is exposed, your authority will stabilize permanently. Listen closely, awaken one, because this layer touches the core of who you believe you are. Beneath the fatigue, beneath the silence, beneath the tolerated negativity, there was a quiet shift in identity. And identity determines authority. Archangel Michael reveals that at some point, you began to see yourself as overwhelmed instead of appointed. You started identifying more with pressure than with purpose. You viewed your house as a place of stress rather than a place of stewardship. That internal shift was subtle, but it carried spiritual consequences. When identity weakens, authority hesitates. And when authority hesitates, covering loosens. You were never meant to see yourself as barely surviving. You were assigned to govern your atmosphere. You were entrusted with spiritual jurisdiction over your dwelling. But exhaustion blurred that truth. Discouragement whispered that you were simply reacting to life, not directing it. That whisper was the real danger. Because when you believe you are powerless, you stop exercising power. Archangel Michael says the silent mistake was not just agreement with negativity. It was agreement with a diminished version of yourself. You forgot, even briefly, that you carry delegated authority. Your words shape environments. Your declarations shift atmospheres. Your obedience activates reinforcement. But if you see yourself as small, you will speak small. And small speech creates thin walls. This is why identity restoration is critical. Right now, you must reject the image of yourself as overwhelmed and reclaim the truth that you are appointed. Your home is not controlling you. You are assigned to steward it. Your circumstances are not defining you. You are defining what remains within your walls. Archangel Michael stands not only as a protector, but as a witness to your authority. He does not replace it. He responds to it. When you rise, he reinforces. When you declare, he guards. When you align, he fortifies. But if you shrink back, he does not override your will. This moment is about expansion of identity. Say to yourself, even now, I am not helpless in my own house. I am entrusted. Feel the difference in that statement. Entrusted carries responsibility. Entrusted carries dignity. Entrusted carries strength. The covering responds to how you see yourself. If you see yourself as defeated, the atmosphere mirrors that. If you see yourself as appointed, the atmosphere aligns accordingly. That is why this correction is powerful. You are not merely repairing a mistake. You are reclaiming identity. And once identity stabilizes, thinning cannot repeat so easily. Have you noticed how quickly your mood once influenced your environment? How tension in your heart seemed to echo through the rooms? That is not weakness. That is influence. You carry influence whether you acknowledge it or not. Archangel Michael is urging you to wield that influence intentionally. Stop speaking about your house as if it is a burden. Stop describing your situation as if it has authority over you. Stop rehearsing narratives that shrink your strength. Instead, speak as one who has been given jurisdiction. Because you have. This is not motivational language. This is spiritual reality. When God entrusts someone with space, he also entrusts them with authority over that space. The silent mistake blurred that awareness. But clarity has returned. Now here is where your participation becomes powerful beyond your own walls. If this revelation is awakening something in you, do not keep it isolated. Engage with it. Comment your declaration of identity below. Share this message with someone who have been seeing themselves as overwhelmed instead of appointed. Let this truth spread into other homes. When you like this video, when you subscribe and become part of this growing movement, you are amplifying a message that restores authority to households that almost forgot it. There is power in collective awakening. And before you move on, hold this thought. What is coming next will reveal how your restored identity is directly connected to an unexpected blessing that was nearly delayed. You will want to understand this connection fully, because it explains why the warning felt so urgent. Archangel Michael says the 2-hour window was not only about protection, it was about positioning. If your identity remained diminished, you would not have recognized the opportunity approaching your door. But now you will. Now you are alert. Now you are aligned. Now you are standing in authority again. And when authority stands firm, covering does not pull away. It intensifies. Steadfast one, now that your identity is being restored, you are ready to understand why the timing of this warning was so precise. This was never only about preventing loss. It was about preparing you for arrival. Archangel Michael reveals that something has been approaching your household quietly. Not something negative, something ordained. A shift, an opportunity, a Ganarian, a door that requires spiritual stability to walk through properly. When God prepares to release increase, He first secures the foundation. If the atmosphere of your home remained thin, the weight of what is coming could have created strain instead of blessing. That is why the warning came before the opportunity. You may have sensed change in the air recently. Subtle anticipation. Will explain restlessness. A feeling that something is about to move. That sensation was accurate. The spiritual realm began rearranging circumstances around you. But when covering started to thin, heaven paused certain movements. Lot cancel. Pause it. Because blessing without stability becomes pressure. Archangel Michael stands at the intersection of protection and preparation. He is not only guarding your dwelling, He is ensuring it can sustain what is coming. And what is coming requires clarity, unity, and confidence. Imagine receiving good news while your house feels unsettled. Imagine stepping into opportunity while tension lingers in the rooms. That misalignment would have drained the joy from the blessing. So heaven intervened first. This is how mercy works. Instead of allowing you to receive something prematurely, you were alerted to adjust your foundation. And now that you are realigning, movement can resume. There are conversations that will soon take place inside your home that carry long-term impact. There are decisions approaching that will influence your financial direction, your relationships, and your spiritual growth. These are not random events. They are connected to assignment. But assignment thrives in peace. Archangel Michael says your restored authority creates space for acceleration. When you corrected the atmosphere, you did more than close the door to negativity. You reopened a door to progress. Some of you will begin to see small confirmations almost immediately. A message you were waiting for. A resolution that seemed delayed. An idea that suddenly becomes clear. These are not coincidences. They are signs that movement resumed once alignment returned. The enemy tried to thin your covering because instability benefits delay. Delay benefits doubt. Doubt benefits withdrawal. And withdrawal would have made you hesitant when opportunity knocked. But you are not hesitant anymore. You are awake. You are aligned. You are aware. Archangel Michael shows that what is approaching your house carries growth. Growth requires courage. Courage requires identity. Identity requires covering. That is why all of this had to be addressed first. There is something powerful about understanding that a warning is actually preparation for increase. It changes your perspective completely. Instead of feeling targeted, you realize you are being positioned. Instead of feeling attacked, you realize you are being elevated. This elevation is not loud. It is strategic. Pay attention to the next few days. Watch how peace begins to settle more firmly. Notice how clarity sharpens. Observe how certain distractions lose their pull. These are indicators that your house has stabilized. Archangel Michael is reinforcing the perimeter not because danger is escalating, but because blessing is approaching. Protection intensifies when value increases, and your value is increasing. There is a divine sequence unfolding. Correction led to awareness. Awareness restored identity. Identity reopened authority. Authority re-established covering. Covering now sustains increase. Nothing about this is accidental. You were warned because you were chosen for advancement. Let that settle deeply. Chosen for advancement. The thinning was temporary. The restoration is intentional. The increase is imminent. But there is one more dimension you must understand before the full release manifests. Because increase not only attracts attention from the unseen realm, it also tests the alignment of those inside your house. Unity will become essential. Agreement will become powerful. And what happens within your walls in the coming season will determine how far this blessing expands. Archangel Michael is not finished speaking. There is still a final reinforcement that must take place to ensure that what is coming remains protected, multiplied, and sustained. Consecrated One. Now we arrive at the reinforcement that determines whether increase becomes overflow or becomes obstruction. Archangel Michael is revealing that unity inside your home is the final seal over what God is about to release. Covering protects structure, but unity strengthens it from within. When there is quiet tension between people under the same roof, even if unspoken, it creates spiritual friction. That friction does not destroy blessing immediately, but it restricts its flow. Think of it like a river trying to move through narrow channels. The water still flows, but not at full strength. Archangel Michael says the thinning that began earlier was not only connected to your personal fatigue or identity shift. It was also influenced by subtle disconnection within your household. Perhaps misunderstandings were left unresolved. Perhaps apologies were delayed. Perhaps assumptions replaced conversations. Silence can protect peace temporarily, but unresolved silence erodes unity slowly. And unity is oxygen for increase. What is coming to your house requires collective agreement. If there are others living with you, your tone sets the atmosphere. Your humility can break walls. Your willingness to initiate reconciliation can reset the climate completely. This is not about winning arguments. It is about protecting destiny. If you sense distance growing between you and someone under your roof, now is the time to bridge it. Not dramatically, not forcefully, gently, intentionally. Even one sincere conversation can reveal what was thinning. Archangel Michael stands ready to guard the perimeter, but internal unity is your responsibility. Protection from outside cannot compensate for division inside. There is something sacred about households that choose agreement. When two or more align in truth, the covering multiplies. Peace thickens. Clarity sharpens. Favor accelerates. Imagine your house not only restored, but synchronized. Conversations flowing easily. Decisions made without tension. Laughter returning naturally. That environment becomes fertile ground for the blessing that is approaching. You were warned before increase arrived so that you could remove every obstruction. This is that final removal. If pride has lingered, release it. If assumptions have hardened, soften them. If distance has grown, close it. Archangel Michael says humility strengthens walls faster than authority alone. You may feel resistance rising at the thought of initiating peace. That resistance is pride disguised as protection. Do not let it win. Destiny is more valuable than ego. Remember, this was never about punishment. It was about preparation. And preparation requires courage in small things. Some of you will notice that once unity is restored, the atmosphere of your house shifts instantly. The heaviness disappears. The restlessness quiets. Even the physical space feels lighter. That is not imagination. That is alignment sealing the covering. What is coming next will demand teamwork, clarity, and emotional steadiness. You are being positioned for that level of stability. Archangel Michael says your house will not only receive increase, it will sustain it. But sustaining requires cooperation. If this message is stirring conviction in your spirit, do not ignore it. Type "We choose unity" in the comments if this word is aligning your home. Blessing code 808 is being activated over every household that commits to reconciliation and agreement in this hour. As this code is released, I must speak to those who feel the weight of what unity truly means. When you sow into this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or the PayPal link in the description, you are not simply supporting a channel. You are becoming a co-laborer in restoring households across nations. The Spirit declares, "Where there is unity, I command the blessing." When you give, you are planting oil into lamps that are guiding families back to alignment. Your seed becomes a bridge for someone else's reconciliation. This is your moment to respond not casually, but prophetically. If this message strengthens your walls, let your obedience strengthen another home. The harvest attached to unity is abundance. The river attached to agreement never runs dry. Activate your partnership now. Release your seed boldly. And as you give, may peace multiply within your dwelling and overflow into every room under your care. Something powerful is stabilizing around you even now. The covering is no longer thinning, it is thickening. The unity is no longer fragile. It is forming strength. And what approaches your house next will confirm that this warning was the gateway to something far greater than you first imagined. Anointed guardian of your household, what you are about to understand now will confirm everything that has unfolded. The warning was urgent because the release is near. And when release is near, resistance intensifies one final time before surrendering. Archangel Michael is showing that the spiritual tension you felt recently was the last attempt to destabilize you before breakthrough. It was not random pressure. It was timed pressure. Time to make you doubt yourself. Time to make you withdraw. Time to make you question whether anything good was truly approaching. But you did not collapse. You listened. You corrected. You realigned. And now the atmosphere has shifted permanently. The covering that once thinned is now layered thicker than before. Not because danger disappeared, but because maturity increased. Protection multiplies when understanding deepens. Something is about to be confirmed in your physical reality that mirrors what has already been restored in the spiritual realm. A message, an opportunity, an open door, a financial adjustment, a relational breakthrough. It will come in a way that feels almost sudden. But it is not sudden. It has been delayed until alignment was secured. Archangel Michael stands not at the edge anymore, but fully surrounding your dwelling. The sword is no longer lowered in watchfulness. It is raised in declaration. Your house is sealed. But sealing does not mean passivity. It means readiness. What comes next will test your confidence. Not in a negative way, but in a stretching way. You will be invited to step forward, to decide quickly, to act boldly. And the difference between your past hesitation and your present clarity will become evident. The silent mistake once caused you to shrink. Now you will expand. There will be a moment when you realize that the heaviness you carried has vanished. The confusion that clouded your thoughts has lifted. The tension that seemed constant has dissolved. That moment will feel almost surreal. That is the sign of stabilized covering. Archangel Michael reveals that this restoration was also observed by unseen forces. The attempt to gain subtle access failed. The probe found no entrance. The agreement that once opened a crack has been revoked. And when legal ground is removed, resistance loses authority. Do not be surprised if people around you begin to notice the change. They may comment that you seem calmer, stronger, more decisive. That is not personality adjustment. That is spiritual stabilization manifesting outwardly. Your house will begin to feel like sanctuary again. Sleep will deepen. Conversations will flow smoother. Plans will become clearer. And the increase that was paused will resume movement. There is something deeply powerful about catching a mistake before it becomes damage. That is wisdom activated. And wisdom builds secure walls. Archangel Michael says this experience was not meant to intimidate you. It was meant to train you. Now you recognize early signs of thinning. Now you detect fatigue before it turns into silence. Now you identify subtle negativity before it becomes atmosphere. That awareness alone strengthens your covering long term. But remain attentive. Not anxious, attentive. When the increase arrives, steward it carefully. Guard unity intentionally. Protect peace consistently. Do not return to careless speech. Do not allow exhaustion to build unnoticed. Keep your identity rooted in appointment, not pressure. Because what is ahead is larger than what you have managed before. The reason heaven intervenes so urgently is because this next season carries multiplication. Not addition, multiplication. And multiplication attracts attention. But this time, you are prepared. Archangel Michael stands as witness that your house is no longer vulnerable in the way it briefly was. The crack has been sealed. The atmosphere has been purified. The authority has been reclaimed. And now expectation should replace anxiety. Look for confirmation within days, not months. Look for movement where there was stagnation. Look for restoration where there was strain. The spiritual realm has already shifted. The physical realm is catching up. You were warned because you were valued. You were corrected because you were trusted. You were restored because you were chosen to carry more. And what approaches your doorstep now will validate that this entire process was preparation, not punishment. Stay alert. Stay aligned. Stay unified. The covering is no longer pulling away. It is resting firmly over your home. And the next sign you see will remind you that heaven does not warn without purpose. It warns before elevation. Watchful one, now that the covering has been restored and the atmosphere stabilized, you must understand the responsibility that comes with sustained protection. Archangel Michael is not only concerned with rescuing you from a moment of thinning, he is focused on ensuring that you never drift into that vulnerability again. What happened was a warning, but it was also a lesson in spiritual maintenance. Covering does not disappear overnight, and it does not strengthen by accident. It responds to consistency. What you repeat becomes what you reinforce. If you repeat gratitude, peace reinforces. If you repeat authority, stability reinforces. If you repeat awareness, discernment sharpens. The mistake that once thinned your covering began with repetition of small compromises. Now your strength will grow through repetition of small disciplines. This is how maturity forms. Archangel Michael reveals that protection thrives in rhythm. Daily acknowledgement, regular declaration, intentional unity. You do not need dramatic acts every hour. You need faithful alignment over time. The season ahead will move quickly. Opportunities will not wait for hesitation. Decisions may require courage without long deliberation. That is why your internal stability must remain strong. When clarity becomes your habit, you will move confidently. There is something powerful about recognizing how close you came to unnecessary delay. Not to live in fear of it, but to appreciate the mercy that prevented it. You were alerted before loss. You were awakened before damage. That awareness alone should anchor you in gratitude. Gratitude thickens covering. When you wake up and thank God for your house, you reinforce its shield. When you speak blessing over your family, you fortify its perimeter. When you reject careless negativity immediately, you prevent cracks from forming. Archangel Michael says you are no longer unaware. You are trained by experience, and training builds resilience. Some of you may face moments soon where old patterns attempt to return. A tense conversation, a tiring day, a discouraging thought. That is not failure. That is testing. But now you recognize the pattern. Instead of agreeing silently, you will correct it immediately. A quick reckon keeps the covering strong. You must also guard what enters your home through media, conversation, and influence. Not with paranoia, but with discernment. If something disturbs your peace repeatedly, limit it. If certain discussions create heaviness, redirect them. You are stewarding sacred space. Your house is not ordinary. It carries calling. It carries assignment. It carries future testimony. And testimony requires consistency. Archangel Michael stands as reinforcement, but he responds to your leadership within your dwelling. You set tone. You set standard. You set spiritual temperature. Do not underestimate your influence. Now, if this journey from warning to restoration has strengthened you, engage with it fully. Share this message with someone who feels their home has been unsettled lately. Comment what discipline you are committing to maintain. Like this video as a declaration that you choose vigilance over passivity. Subscribe and become part of this community that is learning to guard their households intentionally. When you participate, you help extend this awakening beyond your own walls. There is something important I need you to hold on to before we move forward. The next phase of your life will require leadership beyond your comfort zone. You will be asked to guide, to decide, to initiate. And the stability you built during this correction will support you in that role. Archangel Michael says the 2-hour urgency was about preventing delay, but what follows is about embracing responsibility. Blessing is not merely received, it is managed. Protection is not merely granted, it is maintained. You are ready, not because you are flawless, but because you are aware. Awareness keeps you alert. Alertness keeps you aligned. Alignment keeps you covered, and covering sustains increase. The final revelation ahead will show you how this entire warning was not just about your house, but about your influence expanding beyond it. What began as a personal correction is about to become a testimony that impacts others. Chosen vessel, what began as a warning about your house is now unfolding into something far greater. Archangel Michael is revealing that your restored covering was never meant to remain private. It was meant to become visible through the fruit of your stability. When a household moves from thinning to strengthening, from tension to unity, from fatigue to authority, it becomes a quiet testimony. Others may not know the details of what you corrected, but they will sense the difference. Peace has a presence. Clarity has a sound. Confidence has an atmosphere. And when these qualities settle inside your home, they begin to radiate outward. Archangel Michael shows that there are people connected to you who are struggling with the very issues you just overcame. They are fatigued. They have tolerated negativity. Their unity is fragile. Their identity feels diminished. And they are unaware that their covering has thinned. You were warned so you could become aware. Now your awareness becomes guidance for others. Not through preaching, not through correction, but through example. When they step into your space and feel peace, they will ask questions. When they notice stability in your decisions, they will wonder what changed. When they observe unity in your household, they will sense something different. That is influence. And influence requires integrity. The reason this warning was urgent is because your influence was about to expand. If your covering had remained thin, your expanded influence would have carried instability with it. But now, what you carry is strength. Archangel Michael stands not only as protector, but as witness to your growth. He has seen you correct your atmosphere. He has seen you reclaim identity. He has seen you initiate unity. And now he is preparing you for multiplication of impact. You may begin to find yourself offering counsel naturally. People may ask for your perspective more often. Doors of responsibility may open. This is not coincidence. It is alignment bearing fruit. But here is the key. Remain humble. The same humility that restored your unity must remain as your influence grows. Do not forget how close you were to drifting. Do not forget how fatigue once blurred your authority. Remembering that keeps you grounded. Grounded influence lasts longer. Archangel Michael says the covering over your house is now layered with maturity. And maturity carries weight in the unseen realm. Resistance does not test mature authority as casually as it tests unaware authority. You are no longer unaware. The silent mistake became a teacher. A warning became a turning point. A correction became elevation. And elevation now becomes example. Some of you will look back on this moment months from now and realize it marked the shift into a stronger season. You will see how stability increased gradually, how decisions became clearer, how opportunities multiplied without chaos. That is sustainable blessing. Sustainable blessing requires consistent guarding. Continue speaking life. Continue correcting negativity immediately. Continue protecting unity intentionally. Continue renewing your spirit before exhaustion builds. These are not burdens. They are rhythms. Archangel Michael reveals that the spiritual atmosphere around your house is no longer fragile. It is fortified. But fortification must be maintained through awareness, not fear. The increase that approaches will confirm everything. When you see it manifest, remember this process. Remember that preparation preceded release. Remember that warning prevented delay. And when someone around you faces similar thinning, you will recognize it quickly. You will know what to say. You will know how to guide. Because you have walked it yourself. This is how influence multiplies, through lived experience. The next and final revelation will seal this entire journey with understanding. It will show you why the urgency, the 2-hour window, the warning, and the restoration were all perfectly timed within a larger divine orchestration. Nothing about this was random. Nothing about this was exaggerated. It was precise, and the precision reveals purpose. Beloved guardian of your dwelling, this is the sealing of the matter. What began as an urgent warning about God's covering pulling away has now revealed itself as a divine orchestration of protection, preparation, and promotion. Archangel Michael did not interrupt your path to frighten you. He intervened to align you with timing. The 2-hour urgency was never about panic. It was about precision. In the spiritual realm, cycles close. Windows shift. Opportunities move. And when alignment is delayed, timing adjusts. But heaven did not allow your timing to be lost. You were alerted before the cycle sealed. That is favor. Archangel Michael shows that at the exact moment when thinning began to approach a critical point, mercy spoke louder. Instead of allowing slow drift to become measurable damage, you were awakened. Instead of allowing opportunity to pass unnoticed, you were positioned. Now look at the transformation. The atmosphere of your house has shifted. Your identity has been restored. Unity has been strengthened. Fatigue hath been acknowledged and replenished. Authority has been reclaimed. Covering has thickened, and what once felt fragile now feels fortified. This is not emotional exaggeration. This is structural reinforcement in the unseen realm. The reason this entire journey feels intense is because your next season carries weight. Weight requires structure. Structure requires stability. Stability requires awareness. And awareness requires moments like this. Archangel Michael stands now not in warning posture, but in confirmation. The perimeter is sealed. The access points are closed. The unity is strengthened. The authority is active. And the increase that approaches will no longer meet resistance from within. You may not realize it fully yet, but something significant was prevented. A delay that could have stretched months. A strain that could have complicated relationships. A confusion that could have distorted decisions. All intercepted because you responded. That is the power of immediate alignment. Never underestimate what obedience in a short window can prevent in a long season. As days unfold, watch carefully. A confirmation will come. It may arrive quietly, but it will be undeniable. A breakthrough that feels smoother than expected. A conversation that resolves faster than imagined. An opportunity that aligns effortlessly. When it happens, remember this moment. Remember that the covering almost thinned beyond comfort. Remember that fatigue almost silenced your authority. Remember that unity almost weakened through unresolved tension. But also remember that you corrected it. You did not ignore the warning. You did not dismiss the urgency. You responded. And that response altered your trajectory. Archangel Michael reveals one final truth. Protection is not only about defense. It is about direction. When your house is covered, your path becomes clearer. When your atmosphere is unified, your decisions become sharper. When your identity is secure, your steps become confident. You are stepping into a clear path now. Not because life will never test you again, but because you now recognize early signs before instability grows. This was training disguised as warning. This was elevation disguised as correction. This was favor disguised as urgency. Seal this in your spirit today. Type "My house is sealed" in the comments if you receive this final confirmation. Blessing code 1224 is now activated over every home that chose obedience within the window of grace. And now hear this as a sacred continuation of everything you have just walked through. When you sow into this mission through Super Thanks membership, or the PayPal link in the description, you are not giving to a platform. You are extending covering to households standing on the edge of breakthrough. The Spirit declares, "Those who build my house will not lack in their own." Your seed becomes oil poured on the doors of families who do not yet know how close they are to thinning. I hear the Lord saying, "What you release in obedience, I will multiply in protection." This is not a donation. This is a prophetic act. If this message sealed your home, let your obedience help seal another. Do not let the momentum stop here. Activate your partnership now. Release your seed boldly. Strengthen this broadcast of warning and restoration. And as you give, may the same covering that guarded your dwelling expand over your finances, your relationships, and your future in undeniable ways. The warning has ended. The covering remains. And your house stands fortified under watchful protection.